I'm Yuri.
I'm Jacob.
And we're going for a drive.
...2022 Volkswagen Taos Highline.
2021.5 Mazda CX-5 Signature.
And if you're wondering what 2021 and a half means, it's a mid-year update, which made standard two things, the 10.25-inch display and the standard eye active sense, which is basically all their safety stuff. So these are both compact SUVs. The Taos is all new and it is technically a subcompact SUV. However, in reality, these are pretty much the same size.
Yeah, there are so many different versions of subcompact, compact, regular SUVs that it's all kind of a blur.
And as you'll see later with the box test, the rear seat test, there's actually a ton of room inside in this Taos.
And the reason we're comparing these two, even though this Mazda's got the bigger engine and it's a little bit more expensive, is because this was my long-term tester, so I'm using it for family stuff for the last month. And this is the only way that we could get the Volkswagen Taos in a video to do a comparison. And based on the comments from our RAV4 CRV video, everyone decided to choose the CX-5. So we figured this was the best way to bring the newest, hottest SUV into a comparison video.
And if you're shopping for a new Mazda CX-5 or a Volkswagen Taos, click the TrueCar link in the top right corner to get discounted price offers.
So now let's get to the horsepower and torque.
The Volkswagen Taos has 158 horsepower, 184 pound-feet of torque from a 1.5-liter turbo four-cylinder, and that Mazda has 227 horsepower, 310 pound-feet of torque from a 2.5-liter four-cylinder turbo.
But if this was not the turbo motor, it would be very similar horsepower and pretty much identical price.
And Mazda always likes to tell you that if you had 93 octane in the CX-5, you'd have 250 horsepower. But based on the previous journalist that probably drove that, I guarantee it has 87 in it. And not that these SUVs are about flooring it or anything like that, but Yuri, 3, 2, 1. I mean, this took forever to downshift.
Yeah, the Mazda's got a lot more go. But again, smaller motor, more equal.
Yeah, so this does have a 7-speed dual clutch in the Volkswagen. It shifts pretty well. There are no paddles, and I actually don't mind this transmission at all. It's really nice and smooth.
And this Mazda's got a regular 6-speed automatic, which is great because it's not a CVT, which everyone kind of hates.
But I will say that this Taos actually has pretty adequate power, so I'm just going to floor it without you flooring it. It feels totally fine. On the highway, it is a little bit slow, though.
So why would someone be cross-shopping between these two? Is it because these are slightly more luxurious than, say, a RAV4 or a CRV would be?
Yeah, I would say both of these are definitely more upscale than your Hondas and your Toyotas, but they're not quite as upscale as like Audis and Acuras.
So should we start off with the looks?
Yeah, so let's start with the front end. I think the Taos, I don't even know how to pronounce it. Is it Taos, Taos?
You say Taos, I'll say Taos.
Okay, so the Taos looks a little bit better from the front, I think, just because of the headlights. Pretty razor sharp, I'd say.
The way the headlights work with the chrome in the grille and everything, I think it looks fantastic. But the front end of this Mazda is just general good Mazda front end. And then we've got the license plate below the grille because it's an SUV and not a car. And then comparing the paint on both of these, the Mazda's got the amazing Soul Red Metallic, which pops super hard in certain lightings, not in other lightings. I love it. I loved seeing it in my driveway for a full month. And then anytime it rained, this car looked best with raindrops on it, looked better than pretty much any car ever.
And I really like this cornflower blue because we also had it in the Rabbit GTI when we reviewed that. It's a really nice color.
And it's a sister car, the Porsche GT3.
Yes.
It's a very similar blue.
Yes, a lot of cars have a similar blue to this.
So how about the side views and our body lines? We've got very strong, crisp, straight body lines on the Taos.
Yeah, the Mazda's got that swoopiness, but not quite as swoopy as like a Mazda 3.
I'm going to tie them because I really like the way the Volkswagen looks. I think the shadows work really well with those body lines.
Yeah, and I don't really care about the sides, but what I do care about is the wheels, and I think the Volkswagen definitely has the better wheels.
Oh yeah, I mean the Mazda wheels, there's nothing wrong with them at all, and it looks great on the red, but those Volkswagen wheels, those are almost electric-y wheels. That's how cool they are.
They're so cool. Like, I would love to see someone throw these on a GTI, because I know Volkswagen people like to do that.
I was thinking about that, like that would look good on my GTI. And then what would be the Continental recommended tire for these two subcompact slash compact slash normal SUVs?
The Cross Contact LX25.
And the front end of the Volkswagen Taos has that cool black swoop that kind of comes around like the Golf Rs do. So now moving on to the most fun part of these cars' looks, the exhaust tips.
Oh yeah, we got some spicy exhausts on this Taos.
It is the Volkswagen fake chrome thing that they've been doing on everything, which looks super bad on the Atlas Cross Sport, but kind of okay on that. but then you still have dual exhaust coming out of the muffler at the bottom.
Yuri, are you saying that we have fake exhaust on a Volkswagen? Volkswagen wouldn't lie about exhaust, would they?
Can't say that, bro.
I can say whatever I want.
And then the Mazda CX-5 actually has real dual exhaust out the back, but we should probably listen to them from the...
Should we? All right, fine. Let's take a listen to the outside. And from the back, they both look pretty good. The taillights on the Taos kind of have these like cool looking arrows. It looks pretty decent, I'd say, for an SUV.
Overall, both rear ends, I think they're pretty tied, but the Taos has that nice little Taos logo at the bottom, which is different than most badge placements.
And speaking about the rear end, you can actually tow 2,000 pounds with that Mazda CX-5. This Taos is not rated for towing unless you live in Quebec, I guess.
Yeah, check the European stats. I think they'll actually give it to you there, but maybe not in North America. I feel like another manufacturer did that with the RS6.
Yeah, and if you don't understand that joke, then you're not from Canada.
Yeah, in Quebec, they pretty much tow anything with the smallest car possible. So then if we pop both of these trunks, the Mazda actually has a power lift gate. How about you?
No, I actually have to do it manually, and it is kind of heavy to actually close by yourself.
But look how much room we have in both of them. The Mazda has a bunch with the seats folded down, so does the Volkswagen. But most importantly, which one has more room in the
Box test.
7 in the back of the CX5 laying flat, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 in the CX5, 7 in the back of the Taos laying flat, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 boxes in the Taos as well.
Kind of surprising considering this is a subcompact SUV according to Volkswagen, and that's a compact SUV according to Mazda.
Yeah, equal, that's really cool. But then what about backseat room at 6'1.5" Jacob?
Well, in the Mazda CX-5, it's actually a little bit tight for me, but in the Taos, totally comfortable, so much legroom. Again, a shocker.
And even with the seats up, there is a whole bunch of room in the back of both of these, which is really nice.
Yeah, but it looks like the Taos can accommodate slightly more items, especially in a taller way, just because of the shape of the trunk.
So now let's head over to Cliche Corner, smash those train tracks, see which car is more comfortable on them, and then we're gonna talk about our handling through there, not that it really matters, and finish off the interiors with all the features that we get in these two models. Okay, so now that we've switched cars, let's floor it.
You cheated. I heard your foot go down.
I mean, yeah, the Mazda's way faster. This is okay though with the PDK, because if you get the front wheel drive, you get an automatic in the Volkswagen. And according to Savage Geese's video, it kind of sucked.
Well, slow down there, buddy. You're not driving a Porsche. That's called a DSG in that car.
What did I call it? PDK?
You did.
Ah, DSG. Yes, that's what I meant.
So first of all, general interior in the CX-5 looks and feels very luxurious. I would say slightly more premium than that Volkswagen.
This Volkswagen is very nice in here, and instead of piano black, we've got gloss gray, which looks pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm definitely okay with the gloss gray. There is still parts of gloss black, which do suck, but this Mazda also has gloss black around the shifter, so not ideal in both.
Okay, let's get into the seating position though, because getting into this Volkswagen, I tried to go to my saved preset. This doesn't have presets.
Yeah, and the Mazda does have presets, but I'm actually more comfortable sitting in that Volkswagen. First of all, I think the driving position's better just because you can get a little bit lower, and the seats are more comfortable in that Volkswagen. I find these CX-5 seats to be a little bit firm. I kind of feel like I'm sitting on cardboard.
At the bottom, but the back is very, very padded in the Mazda. I like the Mazda seats a little bit more, and I like the driving position more in the Mazda. I feel like the hood goes down quicker, and you can see more road in front of you, where I have to like raise my seat higher in the Volkswagen.
Yeah, so definitely always test drive the cars before you buy them. And we both do have heated and cooled seats, which is very much appreciated, and we do have heated steering wheels in both.
And then as for knee space, as every Volkswagen ever, the steering column gets very close to your knee.
Yeah, so we've both been having the same problem in the Volkswagen, where every single time you get in and out, you kind of smash your knee on the steering column. And in this CX-5, you don't really have that problem. But if you're 6'1.5", my problem is my right knee rests against the front part of the console, and it's again not that comfortable.
And then infotainment placement from where you're sitting and driving, I like how the Mazda is a bit higher up and more forward. You don't have to really take your eyes off the road as much to use it, where this Volkswagen one is still a little bit down, but not nearly as bad as previous gen GTIs and stuff, where it was like placed right at the bottom.
And we both do have Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, but you can also enable wireless Android Auto, Apple CarPlay in the Volkswagen, which is nice to have that option.
even though we both prefer wired, because if you have it wireless, things connect all the time randomly and it gets kind of annoying. And then the Mazda infotainment you can only use with the rotary wheel, which means it's a lot more simplified. You can't use it as a touchscreen, and that's how they got it pushed more forward. I prefer that over this touchscreen infotainment, but it's like one of the few infotainments that actually has just rotary controls.
Yeah, and I really don't like not being able to touch the screen in this Mazda. Like, I'm just, every single time I try and reach for it, sure, if you live with this, you'll stop doing that, but I just prefer the Volkswagen setup. I'm just so used to it.
And in our last CX-5 video, that was the one where you made tea in the time you were able to go through your radio stations when you started up. That infotainment in the CX-5 has been fully refreshed to the most modern Mazda infotainments, however, still has the old rotary wheel. It's very good, works very fast, and it's got tune mix and rewinding satellite radio, which I friggin' love. This Volkswagen does not have that, but it does have a very good Beats sound system.
And the Volkswagen also does not have a 360 camera, has a pretty decent backup camera. This Mazda in signature trim does have a 360 camera, which is really nice, but if you did get a lower trim, you wouldn't have a 360 camera.
But what I really like about both of these is that we do have shortcut buttons to get to our Apple CarPlay / Android Auto projections. In the Volkswagen, I click this app button, and in the Mazda CX-5, you just hold the home button and it'll toggle through, which is the best feature for Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. There's nothing worse than digging through infotainments to just go back to Google Maps.
And in terms of gauge clusters, we have a somewhat digital one in the Mazda. It's actually really nice and fluid. Not too much customization, but overall, I think it just works very, very well.
And combined with the head-up display, it makes things very easy. Your blind spot monitoring is in there and everything. But in this Volkswagen, we've got this digital display, which is pretty nice, a little bit customizable, but it doesn't refresh every digit while you're going faster or slower. It kind of shows digits 3 times per second, which I hate. But to change the stuff in the gauge cluster on the Volkswagen, you have to do it through the infotainment and not through the gauge cluster anymore. So it does take a little while to figure out where everything is.
So now it's time for our patented train track test. So I'm gonna go first in the Mazda, just facial reactions. That wasn't the best, but it was okay.
It felt a little jarring, but wasn't the end of the world in the Volkswagen.
I did do it before in the Volkswagen, and I do prefer driving over train tracks in the Volkswagen.
So now on to drive modes. What do you have in the Mazda, Jacob?
I've got sport and normal, Yuri, that's it.
Yeah, and if you click down, there's nothing, even though you have the option to click down, which is pretty funny.
And what do you have for drive modes in that Taos, Yuri?
In the Volkswagen, if I click down on the mode button, I have normal, eco, sport, and custom. And then if I turn the dial to the left, I have my snow mode. And then if I turn it to the right, I have my auto off-road and then my custom off-road. But once you go to the off-roads or snow, you need to go back to the road one before you can click mode again to go through normal, eco, and sport. It's a little bit confusing.
A little bit? That took you like 5 minutes to explain.
It is confusing.
It's very confusing.
And then to turn off the traction in the Volkswagen, I got to do that through my infotainment. I go to car and settings. But in the Mazda, you have an off-road button on the bottom left, which used to be the traction off button. And then some other features, we do have pretty good lane keep in the Volkswagen. How about the Mazda?
The Mazda only has lane departure assist, so it'll kind of vibrate once you hit the lane.
Yeah, and I think Mazda's whole philosophy is you're the one driving it. They're not going to give you too many automatic features, but then they have all like the safety blind spot monitoring and stuff and the brake assist to help out in that way.
And does Mazda have this, the visor test?
3, 2, 1.
Just the
Volkswagen
extension.
passes. Cup holders are both pretty good, but they're both behind the shifter, not in front of the shifter, closer to the dash. So when you're grabbing cups, you kind of need to like twist your wrist more than I would like.
Yeah, but they both pass, which is good.
Yes, they do. And then this Volkswagen actually has a remote starter built into the key fob, where the Mazda does not. But you can get a dealer installed remote starter in the CX-5, which adds an extra key fob, but you will be able to in the future use the app to remote start your CX-5, but I prefer not connecting my cars to the apps. I like disconnected cars.
Okay, so right before we get to Cliche Corner, let's talk about suspension comfort. Way more comfortable for daily driving in the Volkswagen. I find the damping to be just a little bit softer. This Mazda is definitely geared for sportiness,
but they're both like relatively similar for comfort.
You do notice that there's less body roll in the CX-5, but it's not like a remarkably handling vehicle. It still does want to understeer.
I like the heavier handling in the CX-5. This Volkswagen just feels a little bit too light to me.
And the turn and response of the Mazda is just, it's so delayed. Like, I just want more from this. And yes, they are both all-wheel drive, and this Mazda does have the G-vectoring, but I find that it doesn't work as well as that Volkswagen handles.
Yeah, the 4Motion just feels way more planted, considering Mazda's generally known to be a better handling car than most SUVs.
Yeah, that Taos is really surprising through Cliche Corner. Like, we both expected the Mazda to just take the handling away in this competition, but no, that Taos is amazing.
Maybe it was all that R&D they put into the CX-30 and it hasn't caught up to the CX-5 yet.
And right before we switch cars, the powertrain in the CX-5, this turbo is so nice. If you do appreciate straight line acceleration, this is definitely the one to get. Yes, it's about $5,000 more than the top trim of the Volkswagen, but if you really want that horsepower and torque, this is the one.
If you wanted to go faster in a Volkswagen SUV, you could do that in Europe if you got the T-Roc R, but apparently North America's not ready for that smaller SUV yet.
Volkswagen Taos without launch control brake boost. Oh my God. No, that's horrendous. Okay, without brake boost. Oh my God. Yuri, this is horrible.
That's borderline sketchy. I feel like I could definitely outrun that car.
Oh my God, he's beating. No, okay. the 20-yard dash, Yuri would have won. Anything beyond that, no. So hopping back in here, the first thing I notice is how soft the suspension is and how light the steering is.
Yeah, this Mazda feels just more sturdy to me, and I love the heavier steering. And I'm not going to use my paddles at all in the Mazda because I used them earlier and I didn't really enjoy it.
Okay, into Cliche, and yeah, the turn and response is so much better on this, but you can hear the tires squealing.
It definitely feels better in the Taos. This Mazda really feels like it's going to slide out a lot more than the Volkswagen does.
And we have previously tested the 4Motion system on the ice, and it was super fun to actually drive it around with the Golf R, but on the road, this is totally different.
Yeah, and we did drive these Mazdas around in the snow on a golf course. Overall, neither of these are the best handling, and if you like handling, these aren't the cars for you.
No, and that's why we prioritize suspension comfort in a test like this, so I think the Volkswagen wins on that one.
But they're both really comfortable. I'd say the Taos wins by an inch for comfort.
Hey, winning's winning, Yuri. Don't matter if you win by an inch or a mile.
So I think with everything out of the way, it's time we get to the price.
So this Volkswagen Taos in the top trim, fully loaded, is $38,195.
Canadian.
And the CX-5 in the top trim, signature, fully loaded with the optional paint, $43,200.
And if this was the GT with the naturally aspirated slower motor, it would be pretty much exactly $38,000 with the Volkswagen Taos.
Yeah, so very comparable, even though this is technically a subcompact SUV according to Volkswagen. I'm gonna keep saying that just because we have assessed both of these in every test, and it's just, they're the same size basically.
Yeah, and then driving this thing for a whole month, using it for family stuff, I think I may have floored it like 3 or 4 times. So if I had the smaller motor in here, it really would not be an issue for me. The main thing that I would really miss out on by not having the signature is the 360 camera. I just really love it, and it was so helpful for parking in my slightly tricky driveway.
And if you're shopping for a new Volkswagen Taos or a Mazda CX-5 and you live in the United States, click the TrueCar link below. There's a discount when using the TheStraightPipes link.
And if you live in Canada, there's a Car Help Canada link below. And you'll actually be talking to Sherry, who's right here with us today, helping us film.
Shout out Sherry from Car Help Canada.
And he's been helping us with some stuff from back in the day. He was actually in our Type R, STI, and Focus RS comparison.
So the overall winner between both of these, I'm actually going to give it to the Volkswagen Taos because it surprised the hell out of me. I think this car is a very good value, especially considering it's a little bit less money. And yes, we are comparing it to that one directly. So if you compare value to value, top trim to top trim, I think the Taos actually wins.
And because I love this infotainment so much in the Mazda, I love this paint, I'm gonna have to go with the Mazda. It's just more of my fit, and I just feel better in it.
And going into this comparison, I expected to like the CX-5 so much more, but I think Volkswagen did a really good job, and they're getting bonus points for surprising me. And I would 100% recommend this over the Volkswagen ID4 because I hated that thing.
And I was also shocked at how good the Volkswagen Taos was, but I am a little conflicted if I would take it over the ID4 because I still thought the ID4 was kind of cute, even though it had so much wrong with it. And if you don't want to get into that crazy new infotainment with sliders and touch stuff, this is probably one of the last cars that's going to have a normal infotainment from Volkswagen.
And the ID4 is the worst car I've driven this year by far.
So let us know in the comments below, would you take the Volkswagen Taos or the CX-5? Because we know there's a lot of you CX-5 fanboys, even though we found out that Volkswagen Taos handles better.
So let us know what you guys think and watch our other comparisons like the RAV4 and CR-V.
Heck, maybe even get a Civic or a Corolla. You don't need an SUV, do you?
No. What about just an R34 versus an R35 GTR? Just get some skylines.
Well, the R35 is not a Skyline.
You're right.